Gordon Ramsay, one of the greatest culinary minds the world has ever witnessed. The man who transformed kitchens into battlegrounds and turned cooking into an art form millions worship. From a childhood soaked in violence that nobody dares to speak about, he rose to become the most powerful figure in the culinary universe. With his almost ruthless ability to spot mediocrity and demand perfection, he turned failing restaurants into legendary empires, earning the title of the industry's most feared god. For over 3 decades, he defined what true excellence meant, igniting millions of culinary dreams and becoming the very symbol of uncompromising standards and relentless ambition. Gordon Ramsay, the genius mind behind Hell's Kitchen, Kitchen Nightmares, and MasterChef, the shows that gave birth to an entire generation of chefs and food lovers. But behind that legacy lies a story not glamorous, but devastating. A hidden battlefield of childhood brutality, dreams ripped apart, financial collapse, family betrayal, unbearable loss, and near-death encounters that fame could never protect him from. The world has celebrated his Michelin stars for years, but few are prepared to face the haunting truth he now carries. Wrestling with shadows so heavy that even his $220 million fortune cannot erase them. Before we begin, if those shows ever gave you inspiration, hunger, or the courage to chase excellence, leave a like as a tribute to a man who sacrificed peace to ignite the dreams of others. The childhood nobody talks about, violence, fear, and survival. Behind the thunder of global fame lies a cruel truth. Gordon Ramsay's first kitchen was not lit with the warm glow of culinary passion, but with the cold, merciless terror of a childhood drenched in violence. Born on November 8, 1966 in Johnstone, Scotland, he grew up moving between towns like a refugee, inside a family that appeared normal from the outside, yet was shattered by wounds that bled in silence. His father, Gordon James Sr., was not a mentor, but a monster. A violent alcoholic whose fists spoke louder than words, whose rage turned every home into a prison. While his mother, Helen, a nurse with a heart too kind for the hell she endured, became the family's shield, absorbing blows meant to destroy them all, sacrificing her body to protect her children from a man who should have loved them. Years later, Gordon would confess with devastating honesty, "I was born into domestic violence. My father's fists were the soundtrack of my childhood." That brutal admission became a window into a wound that no amount of Michelin stars could ever stitch closed. The Ramsay family moved 16 times, not in search of dreams or opportunities, but running. Running from landlords demanding unpaid rent, from debt collectors circling like vultures, from the wreckage of a father who could not hold a job, could not control his demons, could not stop destroying everything he touched. Each new town was supposed to be salvation. Each one became another chapter in the same nightmare. Gordon remembered with haunting clarity the nights his mother would wake them in panic, bundling terrified children into a car in the dead of night, fleeing to shelters where strangers offered more safety than their own father ever could. Police were called repeatedly, not once, not twice, but again and again, until the flashing lights became as familiar as the violence itself. Social workers intervened, their clipboards filled with reports that changed nothing. At times, Gordon and his siblings were placed in group homes, while their mother lay in hospital beds, her body bearing the evidence of a marriage that had become a torture chamber. School offered no sanctuary. At every new school, Gordon was the outsider, the boy with no roots, no history, no friends. He learned to keep his head down, to stay invisible, to never speak of the chaos waiting at home. While other children worried about homework and playground games, Gordon worried whether his mother would survive the night. His father's violence was not occasional. It was the family's rhythm, unpredictable and constant, a ticking bomb that could detonate at breakfast or midnight, triggered by nothing or everything. Every gift the children scraped together money to buy for their mother would be smashed against walls by their father in drunken rages. And yet, in that crucible of terror, something fierce was being forged. Gordon learned that survival required hardness, that weakness invited pain, that tears changed nothing, that the only person he could truly depend on was himself. The boy who hid in closets from his father's fury, who listened to his mother's screams through thin walls, was being shaped into someone the world would one day fear. His childhood was no fairy tale. It was a war zone. And every bruise his mother wore, every night spent trembling in the dark, every moment of helpless rage became the fuel for an ambition so relentless it would one day conquer the culinary world. But the scars would remain, invisible to cameras, untouched by fame, but carved so deeply into his soul that they would shape every relationship, every outburst, every moment of fury that television audiences would one day witness and mistake for entertainment. The dream that was stolen, from football stardom to shattered hopes. For young Gordon Ramsay, salvation arrived not in the warmth of a loving home, but in the roar of a stadium and the precision of a football pitch. At age 12, he discovered the one place where chaos could be tamed, where rage could be channeled into power, where a boy from hell could become a hero. Football. It was not just a game, it was oxygen. By 15, his talent was undeniable. Fast as lightning, fierce as a storm, fearless in ways that stunned coaches. He earned a coveted spot in the Youth Academy of Glasgow Rangers, one of Scotland's most legendary clubs. For the first time in his brutal life, Gordon felt something he had never known: hope. Not the fragile hope of a child wishing for his father to change, but solid, blazing certainty. This was his escape. This was his destiny. He trained with a ferocity that bordered on obsession. While other boys dreamed, Gordon worked. Every sprint, every drill, every bruise on the field felt like redemption for the bruises he had witnessed carved into his mother's skin. Football was not recreation. It was survival rewritten. Scouts began watching him with interest. Teammates spoke his name with respect. And for a brief, shining moment, Gordon Ramsay believed that destiny had finally, mercifully, turned in his favor. But destiny, as Gordon would learn with soul-crushing cruelty, is as fragile as a knee joint. During a routine training session in 1985, his knee twisted unnaturally beneath him. The pain was instant and catastrophic. Torn cruciate ligament, damaged cartilage. In a single merciless second, the dream exploded into dust. Surgeons tried to repair the damage, but the verdict arrived like a funeral announcement. His knee would never sustain the savage demands of professional football. At 19 years old, Gordon Ramsay's career ended before it truly began. The devastation was absolute. He would later admit, his voice thick with regret, "I'd give up everything. All the Michelin stars, all the restaurants, all the fame. I'd trade it all to have been a professional footballer. That was my first true love." That confession was not nostalgia, it was grief. The kind that never heals, that lingers in every victory, whispering that this life, no matter how successful, was always second choice. While his former teammates went on to play in stadiums packed with roaring fans, Gordon was left adrift, his identity stripped away, his future suddenly blank. He fell into a depression so suffocating that mornings felt meaningless. Friends from the academy moved forward. The phone stopped ringing. And Gordon found himself working menial jobs just to survive, carrying the unbearable weight of a future that would never arrive. It was his mother, Helen, who refused to let him drown. The same woman who had absorbed a lifetime of violence to protect her children now fought to save her son from himself. She pushed him, gently but firmly, toward a hotel management course at North Oxon Technical College. Not out of passion, not out of love, but out of sheer, desperate survival. At first, the kitchen felt foreign, unworthy of the dreams he had lost. But slowly, painfully, something began to shift. In the unforgiving heat of the stove, In the razor precision of a knife, in the relentless standards of culinary perfection, Gordon found a new battlefield. And this time he vowed no injury, no twist of fate would ever take it away from him again. The boy whose knee had betrayed him was about to become the man whose will could not be broken. But the scar of that stolen dream would never fully heal. It would haunt him for decades, a ghost that whispered in every interview, every reflection, that this extraordinary life was built on the grave of what might have been. From ashes to empire, the rise and the price of perfection. From the wreckage of a shattered football dream, Gordon Ramsay stepped into the only world that would accept him, the kitchen. But it was not a gentle welcome. It was baptism by fire. He trained under Marco Pierre White, Britain's first celebrity chef, and a man as brilliant as he was savage. Marco's kitchen was not a place of learning. It was a gladiatorial arena where weakness was obliterated and only the ruthless survived. Marco did not teach Gordon. He broke him. Systematically, mercilessly. He hurled pans at Gordon's head, screamed insults that stripped away dignity, pushed him to the edge of collapse, and then demanded more. Gordon would later admit, "Marco made me cry more times than I can count. But he also made me a chef." That brutal apprenticeship carved away every soft edge, replacing vulnerability with steel. Every insult became armor. Every humiliation became fuel. From London, he moved to France, working under culinary gods like Guy Savoy and Joël Robuchon. In those French kitchens, standards were not high. They were impossible. A single mistake could end a career. Gordon thrived in that brutality. The boy who had survived his father's fists now survived the wrath of Michelin-starred masters whose standards were as unforgiving as the childhood that had forged him. By 1998, at age 31, Gordon Ramsay opened his own restaurant, Restaurant Gordon Ramsay in Chelsea, London. It was a gamble that terrified him. But Gordon was not simply determined. He was possessed. Within 3 years, the restaurant earned 3 Michelin stars, a feat so impossibly rare that only a handful of chefs worldwide had achieved it. Gordon Ramsay was no longer the boy whose knee had failed him. He was a culinary god. Television discovered him soon after. Hell's Kitchen, Kitchen Nightmares, MasterChef. His volcanic temper, his brutal honesty, his absolute refusal to tolerate mediocrity made him a global phenomenon. Millions tuned in not just to watch cooking, but to watch Gordon unleash a fury that felt cathartic. He screamed what others only whispered. He demanded what others only hoped for. By the mid-2000s, Gordon Ramsay was not just a chef. He was a brand, an empire. Restaurants across continents bore his name. His fortune swelled into tens, then hundreds of millions. The world saw power. Gordon felt only the weight. Behind the empire, invisible to cameras, cracks were forming. He worked 7 days a week. 18-hour days were normal. 4 hours of sleep was luxury. Friends noticed the exhaustion carved into his face. Family saw how little time remained for anything beyond work. But Gordon could not stop. The boy who had once been powerless now controlled everything. And control was the only thing standing between him and chaos. By 2009, that control shattered. Gordon Ramsay Holdings was collapsing. The company owed £10 million in loans, £7.2 million in unpaid taxes. Profits had plummeted from £3 million to £400,000. KPMG delivered a verdict that felt like a death sentence: bankruptcy. The man who had clawed his way from violence to 3 Michelin stars now faced the humiliation of losing everything. The company had expanded too fast. 15 restaurants, 1,250 employees. The infrastructure could not support the ambition. To save it, Gordon and his father-in-law poured £9 million of personal savings into the business. Gordon contributed nearly £6.2 million, money he had spent decades accumulating, drained in an instant. It was not a rescue. It was a ransom. Restaurants were closed, staff laid off, dreams downsized. The crisis taught him a brutal lesson. Success is fragile, Ambition without wisdom is suicide. The near bankruptcy of 2009 scarred Gordon in ways the public never understood. It was not just money lost, it was trust shattered and the terrifying realization that even brilliance could not guarantee survival. The betrayals, losses, and near death that nearly destroyed him. Just as Gordon was steadying himself after financial ruin, life dealt him a betrayal so profound it made bankruptcy seem merciful. Chris Hutchison, Gordon's father-in-law and CEO of Gordon Ramsay Holdings, had been secretly conspiring against him. Between 2010 and 2011, Hutchison and his sons hacked into the company's computer systems nearly 2,000 times. On one day alone, Hutchison accessed the system 600 times, but the hacking was only the surface. Hutchison had been using a ghostwriting signature machine to forge Gordon's signature on legal documents. One forged document was a £640,000 annual lease for a pub Gordon had never approved. When Gordon discovered the betrayal, the devastation was total. This was not a business rival. This was family. The father of his wife, Tana. The man he had trusted with his children's futures. The legal battle was vicious. Gordon took the stand, detailing the theft and forgeries. Hutchison fought back with smear campaigns and leaked information. Friends chose sides. Family gatherings became impossible. In 2017, Hutchison was sentenced to 6 months in prison. But the victory felt hollow. Gordon later admitted, "That betrayal cut deeper than anything my own father ever did to me, because I chose to trust him, and he used that trust like a weapon." The betrayal changed Gordon forever. He restructured his business, became more guarded, less willing to trust. The boy who had survived his father's violence now had to survive the betrayal of the man who should have been the father he never had. But if betrayal was a wound, loss was devastation beyond words. In June 2016, Tana Ramsay was 5 months pregnant with their son, Rocky. The pregnancy was difficult, but hope remained, until it didn't. Tana suffered a devastating miscarriage. Rocky was born with a heartbeat, but too premature to survive. In Tana's arms, the little boy took his first and final breaths. The silence that followed was unbearable. "There's no book that guides you through that loss," Gordon later confessed. "You just have to survive it, minute by minute." The grief consumed the entire family. Their children, Megan, twins Jack and Holly, and Matilda, all felt the absence of the brother who should have been. The family named their Cornwall home Rocky Bay House in his memory. Each family member wears jewelry engraved with Rocky's name. For Gordon, the loss of Rocky shattered something fundamental. He was a man who fixed things, who saved failing restaurants. But he could not save his son. The powerlessness was suffocating. Rocky's death redefined what family meant to Gordon. Though they later welcomed Oscar in 2019 and Jesse in 2023, the shadow of Rocky's absence never lifted. It was a reminder that even the most powerful are utterly powerless against fate's cruelest twists. By 2024, Gordon had survived childhood violence, shattered dreams, financial ruin, betrayal, and unbearable loss. But fate was not finished. In June 2024, at age 57, Gordon was cycling in Connecticut when his bike hit a pothole. He was thrown violently to the pavement. His helmet split completely in half. Massive bruising covered half his torso. He suffered blurred vision and pain so intense he thought he would pass out. "I'm lucky to be standing here," he later admitted, revealing bruising so extensive it looked unreal. For days, he could not dress himself. His assistant had to help him put on underwear and socks. "I felt like a 95-year-old man," Gordon confessed. The accident forced a brutal reckoning. For decades, he had pushed his body without mercy. The bike accident was the bill coming due. Just 2 months later, in August 2024, another blow landed. Gordon underwent surgery to remove basal cell carcinoma, a form of skin cancer, from his face near his ear. He shared photos urging followers to wear sunscreen and get checked. The diagnosis was not immediately life-threatening, but it was a stark reminder. Mortality was no longer abstract. It was here. At 58, Gordon was being forced to confront what decades of ambition had tried to outrun: time, fragility, the reality that even legends are mortal. And beneath these visible tragedies, another wound festered. His younger brother, Ronnie, has struggled with heroin addiction for most of his adult life. In 2007, Ronnie was arrested in Indonesia with heroin and sentenced to 10 months in prison. Gordon has admitted that watching his brother's life waste away devastates him daily. "I can't save him," Gordon once said, "and that kills me every single day." In 2025, Gordon Ramsay stands not as the untouchable figure who once screamed through television kitchens, but as a man utterly reshaped by survival and scars. At 58, he still appears on television, still judges aspiring chefs, but the role has changed. His verdicts have softened into mentorship, his fury into patience. The man once feared for his rage now speaks with the wisdom of someone who knows exactly how fragile life is. At home, his $15 million Beverly Hills mansion has become a sanctuary where health comes first. Mornings begin with careful Pilates routines to protect his body. Meals are carefully planned nutrition. His greatest fear now is not failure, but losing time. Time with Tana, time with his 6 children. He speaks less of restaurants, more of bedtime stories and family dinners. His empire still hums. His fortune stands at over $220 million. But Gordon speaks of these riches with detachment. He has made clear his children will not inherit vast wealth. "I don't want them to inherit money," he has said. "I want them to inherit values." Much of his fortune will flow into foundations for children's health care and support for families affected by domestic violence. The boy who survived his father's fists is now ensuring other children have a chance to escape theirs. Even his appearance tells a story of surrender to time. His face is lined, his hair gray. "I've stopped fighting age," he confessed. "I'd rather spend my energy making memories." Perhaps the truest measure of Gordon Ramsay today is not in restaurants opened or shows produced, but in ordinary victories, reading to his children, stretching against pain each morning, directing his fortune toward those who will never know his name. The ruthless chef has become the humbled father, the empire builder, a man of legacy. His life whispers a universal truth. Wealth fades, fame withers, health falters, but love, humility, and purpose endure. Behind the legend is a father clinging fiercely to time, a survivor who teaches us that grace is not found in triumph, but in endurance. And now, his story turns to you. What lesson will you take from Gordon's journey? To slow down before fate forces you, to cherish laughter above applause. Remember, Gordon is not perfect. He has stumbled, raged, and been scarred in full view of the world. But that is what makes his journey worth reflecting on. It reminds us that legacy is not about flawless triumphs, but about the courage to change after failure, to love despite loss, to keep moving even when broken. Share your reflections below. Subscribe for more untold chapters. And join us in honoring not only the legends, but the fragile, imperfect humanity beating inside them. For in every scar, Gordon Ramsay shows us the ultimate truth, that the greatest legacy is not empire, but the courage to be vulnerable enough to change.